While the full moon that we are going to have in the sign of Libra on April 12th is technically not an eclipse, it is the final closing chapter culmination point that we have been needing to close out the last 2 years of hectic growth that we have done. And so in this video, I want to give you your complete rundown into everything that you need to know about the full moon in Libra that we're having on April 12th, including your sign's horoscope and why this plays into our eclipse story. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Isabelle, your spiritual rebel friend, and today we are talking about the full moon in Libra. Before we dive into today's video, if you want to get your personalized horoscope for this full moon in Libra, book a 30-minute horoscope reading down in the link in the description below. And if you want more time to dive deeper into this eclipse, or not eclipse, this full moon and other transits that are affecting you and your birth chart in general, book a 1-hour reading, same link in the description below. In today's video specifically, I want to cover what the full moon in Libra is all about, horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs, see the timestamps down below to jump to your sun and rising horoscope, and practical tips for applying this knowledge and utilizing the energy of the full moon to your benefit. Because again, this really does play into the eclipse story that we've had over the last month and also in the last 2 years. So this is a very important full moon, and I'm going to talk about why today. But at the end of this video, if you're someone who wants practical tips, if you're someone who wants to work with the energy, not just take in the information, watch through to the end of this video where I'm going to share some top tips for working with this energy of this full moon in Libra. So for the majority of this video, I'm going to be bringing back old videos where I talk about the general themes of the full moon in Libra and your horoscope and so much more. But I did want to preface this with talking about why this plays so heavily into the eclipse story for those who don't know. Since 2023, we have had, or starting in 2023, better said, we had a lot of changes happening with how we all embrace the Aries and Libra archetype. Because starting in July of 2023, the North Node had entered Aries and the South Node had entered Libra, which means that collectively from July of 2023 to January of this year, we were cleansing, purging, detoxing, renovating, releasing what no longer serves us around matters related to acceptance, approval, comfort, connection, and even harmony. How or what were we doing in order to not rock the boat? Libra themes were something we were all redefining in a certain area of our life. And that's all going to be dependent on what your sun and rising sign is, where exactly you're feeling this. But regardless, collectively, Libra energy has been under a lot of pressure. We were all over the last 2 years realizing that, maybe I'm seeking connection in unhealthy ways. Maybe I'm sacrificing parts of myself for the sake of connection. And is that really connection? And so I think for us all, our relationships in some means, whether it's friendly relationships, familial relationships, platonic, we're all going under major stress. And it could have felt like over the last 2 years that we have all been a bit more solitary in positive ways, in the sense that we're aligning with our highest self and our growth. But also to some degree, it felt maybe like this sense of, I don't have anyone. And what is it like to not have that security blanket? But the fact is, we don't live in a solitary world. After all, we interact with others unless we are a monk. And considering you're watching this video, you're probably not a monk in this case. And so we're meant to interact with people. And so given the fact that we've had the South Node in Libra, given the fact that we've been cleansing, purging, detoxing around these themes and having eclipses in Aries and in Libra over the last 2 years on and off, now this full moon in Libra is the final culmination point to leave this story behind. To give more specifics again on why exactly this is, with the South Node being in Libra and North Node in Aries since January or July of 2023, we've had also eclipses in these signs. I believe we had specifically an Aries and Libra eclipse in October of 2023. I know for certain that we had an Aries and Libra eclipse in October, both of them, in 2024. We had an Aries and Libra eclipse in March and April of 2024. And we had our final solar eclipse in Aries in end of March of this year, 2025. So I'm going to recap that a little better to say it a little better. It was solar eclipse in Aries, April of 23. Eclipses in Aries and Libra, October-ish of 23. Then Aries, Libra eclipse, March and April of 24. Again, Aries, or actually not Aries, Libra eclipse, but not Aries eclipse in 24 October. And now our final solar eclipse in Aries 25. So the solar eclipse was on March 29th of 2025. It's a new moon eclipse. And when we're talking about lunar cycles, the new moon and the full moon go hand in hand. The new moon opens the gate, the full moon closes the door, so to say. It's the initiation and the harvest. And so always a new and then a full moon are a cycle, a 2-week cycle that go hand in hand, really more like a month long, because we have the week of the energy fading out on either side. But point being, when we had the solar eclipse in Aries, this was our final initiation eclipse to move towards our growth path of authenticity, alignment, bold, authentic desire to be ourselves independently. But this full moon closes out that story. And so we need this full moon to culminate the story. It is tied to the eclipse, and it's already in Libra, so it's the final say we need here. And I'll give more in a minute on what exactly themes can be probably coming up with this. But I did want to explain there for a minute why exactly this is so important, because this can really feel like finally reaping rewards that maybe have been long gone, it feels like, especially in matters related to our connections for us all. We've all been learning to move away from connections, and now it can feel like maybe the universe is rewarding us, giving us that little gold star saying, good job growing into your higher self. Now here's a connection to work with that. Because again, we are meant to connect. It's just that the South Node transiting Libra was inviting us to understand that maybe there's a better way of connecting. And so the full moon in Libra wraps up this story, brings in connection, brings in harmony, brings in bliss. Now I'm going to bring my old videos back in to talk more about what exactly this full moon in Libra is all about, including the degree it's in, the aspects that are going on, why this is such a time to receive, and then check out the timestamps down below to jump to your sign's horoscope for your sun and your rising sign, and jump to the end of this video where I'm going to share a few quick practical tips for utilizing the energy of this full moon in Libra that you can apply to your sign. The full moon in Libra, simply put, as basic themes, brings themes of fruition to our peace, fruition to our diplomacy, fruition to our morality, and fruition to our connections, especially for those who are Aries, and this is their 7th house. Overall, I do think the fact that the South Node has been in Libra plays a very important role in this full moon since it's tied to the eclipse. So how are we keeping the peace for the sake of peace, but it was really causing inner conflict? And how is it not in alignment with our authenticity? That was a theme from mid-2023 till 2025. And so with this full moon being in Libra, tied to an eclipse that is wrapping up themes related to this North and South Node journey around authenticity, we may feel that we're finally experiencing the fruitions of this is what connection and peace should really mean, under the basis of the changes I've finally initiated in matters related to my independent self, my authentic self, and being more assertive with who I am. So the full moon in Libra brings this fruition to this story. There's also a few other things involved that also accentuate this theme as well of being tied to Aries energy, which I mentioned in my, my Aries section probably. The Aries sun, which creates the full moon, is conjunct Chiron. But the practical advice I'd give to this, given how many different interpretations I'm seeing right now, is that our wounds are involved in this. In order to find that completion, in order to find that connection and harmony that we're wanting to bring to fruition, to release the final themes of all this eclipse energy in Aries, we have to identify that there may still be or was wounds in our life associated with this independence, assertion, and authenticity that we've been embracing. So this could be a time to own, in a sense, your wounds, not for the sake of self-pity, but to accept yourself so that you can form true connections. That's what my intuition kind of tells me the interpretation is on this, even though there's a few different things that could play out as well. Again, more on that when I do a video on the full moon in Libra. But also there is a square to Mars involved. And this is a very big theme in a sense because Mars is involved with a lot of positive trines throughout the month. but also the new moon, which I'll talk about in a minute, is also squaring Mars as well. So there's a square to Mars in both cases. And what that means is that these full moons and new moons are really not a time to take action. And this accentuates even further that the full and new moon this month are in Libra and Taurus. Both these signs are ruled by Venus, which is Mars's counterpart. Mars is action, Venus is receiving. Mars is masculine, Venus is feminine. And so I think this is really an opportunity, an invitation, regardless of the Chiron themes that are showing up, to really own your femininity, which doesn't necessarily mean in appearance. It's about becoming and being in the receptive mode, allowing yourself to soften and maybe not take action. This is a month full of a lot of action where we're taking aligned action. The full and new moon act as like, ad breaks or commercial breaks to tell us, okay, just soften, relax, and be in a state of receiving. And it's very possible something will come out with that. After all, a full moon in Libra overall does mean a fulfillment of luxury, a fulfillment of connection, a fulfillment of harmony, regardless of Chiron being involved. It just means that maybe there are wounds also coming up to be aware of. This could also mean it is the wounded healer. So maybe we are healing wounds in others associated with independence, assertion, authenticity, because you've recently initiated something here. And maybe someone needs that piece of advice. And on the same day, Venus stations direct in the sign of Pisces, I believe at like 26 or 24 degrees of Pisces. And this also means that Venus, which is ruling over this moon, moving direct at the same time means that we are acting, or not acting, but being in alignment. So maybe tapping into that energy of compassion, empathy, and softening. Again, that could be this idea of the wounded healer, maybe healing others or giving yourself that compassion. So given that these themes of harmony, connection, and peace are present for all signs already, how will this specifically affect Aries in particular? This is really affecting your love story, Aries, because Libra is, that was a really loud sound, because Libra is your 7th house. And so I'm going to give a bit of a macro scale, big picture here, and also a micro scale, given that this, in my head, it plays into the South Node story we've had. And it also is just simply put, just a small full moon. And I'll explain that even more. Give me a chance to break that down. Since July of 2023 through to January of 2025, the South Node was in Libra, which means the North Node is in Aries, which is why all Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising have gone through some sort of massive shift in their life, as far as I've noticed, including myself. And so with the North Node being in your sign, calling you to grow into higher versions of yourself, it was also releasing what no longer served you in your love life. The South Node in Libra brought massive shifts to your love life, accentuated in April of 2024, or actually March, technically, end of March of 2024. I believe it was March 27th that we had the lunar eclipse in Libra that overall just accentuated the themes present with the South Node being in Libra of shifting your relationships. What is your relationship with relationships like? What is your relationship with friendships like? What isn't serving you? Are you seeking approval? Are you doing things for the sake of connection? Are you doing things for the sake of harmony? Are you doing things for the sake of not being alone? I'm guessing that the Aries listening to this is probably going to resonate with at least one of these themes, including myself. Once again, since 2023, I have been in and out of a serious relationship. It was extremely changing. It really made me shift my whole perception of what relationships are all about. And so with the full moon in Libra on April 12th, what this really means for us Aries is this is the first normal full moon we've had in Libra in, I guess, 2 years. We had a normal full moon in Libra in April probably of 2023, but we had a solar eclipse in Aries, which made the effects shifted, and is actually very similar to what is coming back now, because we again had a solar eclipse in Aries and now a full moon in Libra to wrap up these themes. And so what I'm seeing playing out here, if you're following my line of dialogue here, is this is a fruition for you in your relationships, a completion, letting go of what no longer serves you and letting in what you have been waiting for in your one-on-one friendships and in your one-on-one partnerships. And this is going to be in alignment with the growth work that you have done over the last 2 years, because you've been growing into Aries themes. And on March 29th of 2025, around then, you're probably have initiated for once and for all something new with your sense of self, your identity, doing something that is in alignment with who you are. And now the universe is basically saying, okay, you've done the work. Let's wrap up these Aries and Libra cycles by closing it out with the kinds of relationships that you need to have going forward in alignment with yourself and what you value. Since Venus is involved, in the sense that Libra is ruled by Venus and Venus stations direct the same day. So there's themes around what you value in your love life that are accentuated with this full moon. Very possibly could be fruitions of relationships romantically or platonically, Aries. Overall, this is something very positive to look forward to and affecting you strongly because this is on your axis. However, one quick note with that as well, Chiron is still involved. So what are the wounds about your sense of self, your identity, your appearance, being an Aries? What are the wounds you have associated with the fact that you have Aries traits? And how can you heal these? Make them positive to cultivate one-on-one connections and cultivate authenticity in your relationships. Because I think overall, over the last 2 years, there has been a theme for all Aries on authenticity in relationships. And so maybe this full moon in Libra is a chance for you to really own that authenticity for the sake of your fulfillment and bringing healing to other people. How is this full moon in Libra specifically affecting Taurus? This is bringing you fruitions and culminations in your health, your habits, and your routines. If basically you've been doing a lot of inner work to change your thoughts and the way you think and your internal fears that make you live a certain way. And now by doing that inner work, what this full moon in Libra represents is you're finally experiencing that fruition of reward in your external environment. This is where you can really see your health feeling harmonious. You can feel like you're connecting with the right people on a day-to-day basis. There's overall harmony in your day-to-day life. And it could be at the same time that because Chiron's in Aries in your 12th house, maybe you are helping others heal their beliefs about independence and their beliefs about doing inner work by sharing your journey potentially so that you can enjoy your day-to-day life more. Basically, with Chiron being the wounded healer in Aries in your 12th house, there is maybe wounds coming to light around your inner work journey and the personal fears, the unconscious fears that you carry. But there's also maybe a healing this energy in others instead and sharing this energy more with others. And I think this could overall be a very positive effect for you, Taurus. But overall, full moon in Libra in your 6th house means that this is a time to enjoy your day-to-day life, enjoy the people you're connecting with in your day-to-day life in ways that you may have been trying to pursue or have been changing over the last 2 years. So this is again connected to that South Node idea of reaching a fruition in your day-to-day habits, day-to-day health, day-to-day connections, since this is Libra, that aligns with the version of yourself that you have grown to be. So how is this full moon specifically affecting you, Gemini? This is your 5th house. It's a fellow air sign, and so this full moon works very harmoniously with you. What I would see potentially playing out is, simply put, you are receiving connection for the sake of pleasure and life enjoyment in ways that you have been striving for unconsciously over the last 2 years, and receiving more fulfillment in how you connect with others for the sake of enjoyment, unlike ever before, since you have been doing so much cleansing in matters related to how you enjoy yourself since 2023. Again, with the South Node being in Libra and 5th house for you since July of 2023 to January 2025, you've been overall moving away from your pleasure, your play, your simple life enjoyments. And you've been saying, well, maybe I don't need to connect with people in this way. Maybe I don't need to go out drinking. Maybe these aren't pleasures that are in alignment with me, or maybe these aren't the people I want to be around to enjoy these simple pleasures of life. And maybe I'm indulging in the pleasures of life, the small little things, a bit too much for my fulfillment in my life. With the full moon in Libra, I'm seeing that there is a fulfillment here, enjoying yourself with others, unlike before, in ways that match the harmony of your soul. And this is going to be based off of you being aware of your wounds associated with potentially your individuality. With the Sun conjunct Chiron in your 11th house, Is that right? That should be. In your 11th house. What this indicates to me is that you have had wounds associated with who you are and why you are here, the impact you're here to make. And maybe it's taken some work for you to really lean into your individual purpose and move towards your purpose. But since March 29th, you had clarity here, hopefully making a movement here that you've been working towards over the last 2 years. Now that you're trying to heal these wounds and own your purpose, now you can enter the space of pleasure from the right state of mind and match with the right people who see, wow, Gemini, you've got a purpose. You know who you are, even if you're not perfect in embracing it. Maybe you still have wounds associated here, but hey, I get it, because that's a human desire to want to make an impact. By owning yourself authentically in these realms, you're experiencing pleasure. And the fact that it's squaring Mars in Cancer, which is your 2nd house, this could mean that maybe the pleasure in play doesn't quite work with all the abundance that you have been working with, or all the work you've been trying to do with your finances to stay emotionally aligned. Maybe this is not a time to spend. Maybe it's a time where spending is a bit different. Maybe you feel like the self-worth, the ways that you have found self-worth don't quite align with how you're trying to enjoy yourself in this week, because maybe you're trying to be more self-sufficient and independent, but it feels like you're leaning in and opening up more to people, and you're saying this is not in alignment with me, but it actually could be. Simply put, the square Mars in Cancer could mean that you don't know how your self-worth fits into this. I wouldn't over focus on that, because overall I'm seeing this as a very positive event for you, Gemini. Simply put, how will the full moon in Libra affect Cancer? Cancer, a full moon in Libra activates your 4th house of home and family. And given that it's a full moon, this means culminations in your home and family. Whether that is a culmination as in a fulfillment, or a culmination as in a letting go, it could be a bit of both. This is shining a light and putting energy towards your home life. And this is accentuated simply because the moon has a lot to do with themes of home. And given that this is Libra energy, this can be harmony in your home that you have been looking for. Again, to touch on the themes of the North Node to tie it in, because I feel this is very, very tied in, you have been moving towards your career and away from family for the last 2 years. Maybe being less reliant on family or the place you live for about 2 years, trying to not seek approval here, trying to not focus on having diplomacy here, and instead pursuing the career that you want. This is almost like a stereotypical girl boss mode in a sense. And what all Cancers have been feeling is this call to become authentic through the lens of their career. But now this full moon in Libra is calling you to just receive the joy and harmony that you crave at home, now that you have done the work to align with an authentic vision that you have been desiring. And given that Chiron is in Aries as well, conjunct this full moon, the sun in this full moon, this could mean that maybe now you're able to cultivate that harmony in your home and family by becoming aware of the wounds that you have had over the years in association with your career image. Maybe you had the fear of being seen, the fear of being judged, being too aggressive, being too assertive in a certain area of life. And this could be something that is coming into maybe a conversation with this full moon, so that you can connect on a deeper level with someone, or so that you can enter your home life from a truly harmonious space now that you have healed this wound. This is squaring Mars in Cancer, which means that you yourself, Cancers, may feel like a bit stuck during this full moon, simply because a square is a tight aspect. It is a aggressive aspect, so to say. It's stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you're at a 90-degree angle. You don't know where you fit into this mix. And overall, I would say the best thing, because of, that's actually really themes with the other new moon. But overall, I would say, given that there's a square, this simply means that this is a time even more so to receive rather than to take action. Mars is squaring in Cancer. And what that means is maybe your actions are not, this is not the time to take action. Maybe it's a time to receive and observe rather than feel like you have to be proactive and give. So how will this full moon in Libra specifically affect Leo? That's a bit of a tongue twister whenever I have to say Libra and Leo back to back in a video. But overall, this full moon in Libra brings a culmination, a receiving, and a reward to your daily network and communications. If you have been learning something or trying to teach something, you will gain a fulfillment here during the full moon, likely. Or this could be about your daily network, the people that you communicate with on a day-to-day basis. And this could be an authentic connection with your daily network because you have healed your wounds associated with your personal beliefs and ideologies, since Chiron is in Aries in your 9th house. And the fact that Mars at the time of this full moon is squaring this full moon, given that Mars is in a square to this full moon, that's the right words for that. This may not be the best time to take action here, but more so receive. Notice what the universe wants you to receive in regards to information, both objective and subjective. And maybe this is a sense of authentic connection that you have been waiting for by being able to listen and learn and be yourself. So Virgos, with this full moon in Libra being in your 2nd house, this means that while you have been growing towards intimate, shared relationships and refining your agreements in your shared relationships over the last 2 years, you're now experiencing a fulfillment in your sense of self-worth and self-sufficiency. This could be a financial breakthrough or a self-worth breakthrough that comes from a place of healing and sharing with others. You are now able to, because you have refined what you need to in your intimate relationships, your financially dependent relationships, physically sharing relationships, mentally, emotionally sharing relationships. Now you can experience a fulfillment of self-worth and financial financial reward here. And so again, with Chiron being involved, there may be some sort of self-worth breakthrough or financial breakthrough that comes from sharing recent learnings, so to say, that you have healed in matters related to your intimate relationships. Since Chiron, the wounded healer, is here conjunct the sun, I'm seeing that this could be that you're sharing the wounds that you've healed, sharing your personal journey, helping others heal wounds around independence and intimate relationships potentially. So Libras, with this full moon in your sign, this can feel like finally reaping the rewards on who you want to be that you have been working towards for the last 2 years. Overall, with the North Node having been in Aries in your 7th house since July of 2023, you've been growing into your relationships, growing into partnerships, growing into more authentic friendships, and less into and moving away from being the persona of who you thought you needed to be. But that doesn't mean you don't want to be your own individual. Your life isn't just about being with others. You've been wanting to shift who you are and how you perceive yourself. And so with this full moon in Libra in your 1st house of your sense of self-identity, you may be finally feeling the sense of, I am who I want to be. I think this is a very internal full moon for Libras, not necessarily major changes in the external world potentially, but feeling like your relationships are matching who you want to be, the version of yourself you've been trying to become. And the fact that it is squaring Mars in Cancer, which is your 10th house, that's right. You may not be taking a bunch of action or being overly recognized in your career. You may not have this whole spotlight energy that oftentimes can be associated with 1st house energy. This may more feel like really coming into your own skin. So there's a really good time to soak in an appreciation of feeling like you have become who you want to be. I know full moons, usually we're waiting for something cool or exciting to externally manifest in our reality oftentimes, but I think this is more of an internal realization for you Libras, which is still very valuable in the sense of you finally actually have your external reality as you want it to be, but it's taking you to now to realize that you have become who you've always wanted to be. So how will this Libra full moon specifically affect you, Scorpio? This is your 12th house of the unconscious mind, inner work. And over the last 2 years, you have been trying to release unconscious thought patterns, maybe going to therapy, meditating, doing inner work, changing your beliefs, changing your fears, identifying your fears so that you can live a life you love, habits that you love, daily life that you love, be more in life rather than feeling mentally stuck in your head. And so with this full moon in Libra, you may be experiencing a fulfillment here in the sense that you maybe feel called to solitude. Oftentimes it happens with 12th house energy present during a full moon. You may feel called to spend time alone, but not only spend time alone, you may feel this sense of, I've finally overcome some deep fears that have been holding me back. Maybe fear specifically of rejection, fear of not gaining approval, since this is Libra energy we're talking about. You may feel like you're finally at an unconscious level or at a deep mental level, unafraid of being authentic, since authenticity has been a huge theme for you over the last 2 years. And given that Chiron is in Aries as well during this time, what I could see is that you are maybe sharing potentially the wounds you've overcome with authenticity, the wounds associated with authenticity, combined with inner work you've done here, really sharing these deep thoughts associated with unconscious beliefs and fears to connect one-on-one with people. Given that this is Libra energy in your 12th house, I'm seeing this more as realizing that you no longer fear not gaining approval, but this could mean that you're having a deep introspective one-on-one conversation with someone about the fears you've overcome the beliefs you have. So there's this miniature pause for introspection and deeper conversation, I'd call it, during the full moon in Libra, that in a sea of a month of April that is all giving you this external energy, focusing on relationships, movement in relationships, external focus on your partnerships and work. And so this is almost like a pause of silence, a breath, a really grounding in the present moment that can feel very enjoyable for you. And the fact that it squares Mars in Cancer, which is your 9th house, you may feel like, well, this isn't necessarily the most purposeful thing to do right now, the most meaningful. This doesn't align with my ideologies, but it aligns with you and your authentic you. And so I can't explain that thought much better, but this is something positive to ground into during this time. So how will the full moon in Libra affect you, Sagittarius? For you, this is your 11th house, if I'm remembering correctly. And what this means is that you're experiencing culminations in your sense of purpose and why you are here. The 11th house, once again, is really the question of what is your individual purpose? Why are you uniquely here on Earth? And so this is why words often associated with the 11th house is community, because community gives us that sense of purpose, but not just community, big aspirations, because when we aspire to something to make an impact, we feel a sense of purpose as well. So this has to do with your community, your aspirations, but at the root, your purpose. You can experience a positive culmination in your purpose here, but one that doesn't necessarily require action. Specifically, it may not go well hand in hand with the maybe inner work you've been doing or what you've been doing with your relationships. This may put you on more of a collective scale, more of a community focus in more superficial ways that align with your purpose, but maybe don't cultivate as much depth in the moment as you have been seeking throughout the month in your intimate relationships. And that's just something to pause and observe. Overall, with this full moon being in Libra in your 11th house, and with it being opposing Aries energy, both Chiron and the sun in your 5th house, you maybe have finally overcome some wounds regarding how much pleasure you allow yourself, how much life enjoyment, how you go about pursuing romance. And now that you have healed these things, you can enter the arena, so to say, of purpose as a whole human being with something to teach. Or simply put, living more individualized purpose because you have healed part of your individuality and owned yourself further. Overall, this full moon in Libra is extremely positive for you, extremely positive for community, probably a time to spend time in your community, be out in the world, try to make an impact, or even simply put, just connect to your sense of purpose. So how will this full moon in Libra affect you, Capricorns, Capricorn sun and rising? Libra is your 10th house. And so this is meaning that there is a fulfillment, a reward, a culmination in your career and recognition. And this is why I also emphasize in your major themes that there is a focus on your connections to the outside world, because Libra has to do with one-on-one connections, but the 10th house has a lot to do with recognition. It's one of the two major themes of the 10th house, which is recognition as well as career, image, and profession. So with this full moon in Libra, you may be receiving a reward in your career that helps you feel recognized and also maybe even a bit connected, since this is Libra energies. Maybe you're being seen for the diplomatic person that you have been trying to create yourself, your image to be in your career. And the way that you're finally getting this, being seen for the image you want to be in your career, is because you've done so much healing work with your home and family, with who you are in your home, with your independence within the home. And this could be something that is maybe being seen or helping you be better seen, potentially. That's what I'm reading for you. Overall, Mars is still squaring this full moon in your 7th house. And so this means that maybe your relationships are taking a momentary back burner, or really what, again, a square is like, I don't know where this fits into the story. And it's best to, when I think we have a square, to just wait it out, or to put that area of life on pause and not think about it, because squares are tension, they're a corner. We can't see the full picture. We're seeing two sides of a hallway. We can't see the full picture. The best way to see the full picture is to try to just tune into the energies of the full moon itself. And so with there being a full moon in your 10th and 4th house, activated your home and family life. Your home life is shining a light on your career. And so this is a time for you to really focus on your career, receive in your career, experience culminations in your career, potentially culminations in your career that you've been working on for the last 2 years. But for some reason, my Aquarius horoscope refuses to download off the internet. So we're filming a new version of Aquarius horoscope. Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Rising, how will this full moon in Libra affect you? And I apologize if your horoscope is shorter than normal. Check out my Aquarius April horoscope, where I talk more about how this full moon in Libra affects you, and there's timestamps there for you to jump to it. With this full moon in Libra, this is activating your 9th house, and this is a fellow air sign, so this is a very positive overall energy for you and very easy for you to navigate. You're reaping rewards in your sense of personal beliefs, ideologies, and what gives you a sense of a meaningful life. The 9th house in the end has to do with the question of what is the meaning of life. And with there being a full moon in Libra in this house for you, it can feel like you are connecting with others that help you find that meaning in life, who have those same personal beliefs you do, who share your personal ideologies. Over the last 2 years, you've been moving towards being more objective in your conversations, being maybe more lighthearted, coming from more of a place of independence and not needing to connect with people on your personal beliefs. But now you can probably be connecting with those now on those personal beliefs, getting to share your ideology, sharing and connecting so that you can feel both connected and understood. This is really about your connection to the outside world, but more so your connection to meaning and how people meet you on that. And the fact that it is squaring Mars kind of means that this is a time for you even more, with there being a full moon Aria theme of receiving, even more of an emphasis for you to receive. I can't calculate off the top of my head that fast what house Cancer is going to be for Aquarius. I'm thinking it's your 6th house, but I'm not quite sure. I think that's right, roughly. Point being, this is not a time for you to act. This is not a time for you to pursue. This is not a time for you to do. Things are coming your way to allow you to feel into that sense of meaning of your life. So this is a very positive energy for you, very easy energy, allowing yourself to receive those connections and have those conversations that you love. So how will this full moon in Libra play out for you, Pisces? This is a full moon in your 8th house of shared relationships. And I want to recap the 8th house because every time I talk about it, I get a lot of confusion coming up. And so the 8th house is not only the house of intimacy or sexuality, or even just as inheritance is mentioned, it has specifically to do with any sort of resource that is shared. It is the point we get to in life where we start sharing. So this could be sharing physically, sharing mentally, sharing emotionally, sharing financially. It's really about, in many ways, trust and depth. And so with there being a full moon here in Libra in your 8th house, you may reach a culmination point, a fulfillment and a reward in your intimate relationships and in the ways that you share, maybe finding the kinds of shared relationships that you desire, whether that is having a good connection with someone emotionally or getting to a good agreement with someone financially. There is a fulfillment happening here that you've been waiting for the last 2 years as you have been developing your sense of self-sufficiency. You've been developing this independent sense of self, healing your relationship with independence because Chiron's involved. And now you may be reaping a reward in your intimate relationships to feel that sense of harmonious connection to someone. So with that horoscope in mind, with all that in mind with this full moon in Libra, given all the different planets and points that are coming into play, what do I recommend you do with this information? First and foremost, I really do want to emphasize, as I've already said, that Mars is square this full moon. And I really think that represents even more the fact that Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of receiving, divine feminine. How can you receive during this full moon? Part of also the story with the South Node having been in Libra is letting go of expectation of others, letting go of the need to connect with others. And this full moon really does emphasize that this receiving you may get, receiving connection, does not necessarily need to come again from a place of need. You've learned how to not need this. So how can you stay in that open, receptive mode to receive without feeling a need? And so with that, Mars is in Cancer, and it's calling us to always do what's most nurturing. But given that it's still trying to retrace its steps, Maybe try to stay out of doing what you tend to do, I think is what I'm seeing here. You may feel like deep down you want to take action in a way that's familiar, something that you would have done in the past, but instead it's an opportunity to pause and see what comes towards you. And given that Chiron is in Aries, I would equally recommend with this full moon, since it's bringing to light, not only a time to receive, but bringing to light certain qualities, reflect on the work you've been doing with your independence, specifically since Chiron entered Aries. I can't remember when Chiron entered Aries off the top of my head, unfortunately, but if you just search for Chiron transits or Chiron sign table, you'll see when Chiron last entered Aries. So look back to those dates and even just look back to recent life and ask yourself, what have I been doing? What wounds have I been healing in matters related to my independence? What have I been trying to heal in independence in others? What have I been encouraging in independence with others? And allow that maybe to enter the conversations you may have during this full moon in Libra. Overall, it's a time to cultivate harmony and connection. So if connections come your way, or better said, you may have important connections coming your way, but even at the very least, really treat your daily interactions with extra appreciation and intention, because Libra has a lot to do with those lighthearted one-on-one interactions in our day-to-day life. I think overall, those are my major pieces of advice for the full moon in Libra. This is a time to receive. So what gets you into that receptive mode? What gets you into a mode of relaxation? And depending on what house Libra is for your sign, maybe see if you can either cultivate more connection here, whether that's seeing if plans naturally come together, lightly putting out feelers for social plans, or even simply put, maybe just more harmony in whatever area of life this is affecting. So for example, if you're a Libra, this is your first house, cultivating more harmony in your sense of self. If it's your fourth house and you're Cancer, then cultivating more, I'm getting distracted because I realized I calculated a sign completely wrong. Cultivating more harmony in your home life, maybe. Wherever it is, ask yourself, how can I bring more harmony here without putting more effort in? That's overall what I'd recommend for this full moon in Libra. It's really a time to receive. So what gets you into the receptive mode? How can you observe? How can you not act off of past patterns? How can you be authentic and vulnerable? How can you stay in alignment with the growth you've done? So let me know in the comments below. Are you feeling the energy of this full moon in Libra? Are you excited for this full moon? How's it affecting you? What have you been doing in matters related to Libra energy over the last 2 years? What have you healed in your relationship with approval, acceptance, and connection? And what do you think you may be receiving during this full moon? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Would love to hear the growth journey you've been on with this archetype. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you have any other questions, be sure to book a reading, either 30 minutes or 1 hour long, where we can dive deep into any and everything about this full moon and more. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Sincerely hope you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more videos breaking down the stars and more. Once again, my name is Isabelle, and from my heart to yours, namaste.